Have you ever been in like an online meeting or maybe a virtual class, and the second it clicks off, everything just evaporates?
Oh, absolutely. All the context, those notes, maybe someone scribbled on a virtual whiteboard.
Yeah, the side chats, whatever was happening, poof. It's like the whole room, the space itself just dissolves, leaves you feeling a bit, I don't know, adrift.
It's a really transient feeling, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
you were just passing through some temporary doorway that vanishes right behind you. And it takes all that shared understanding with it.
Exactly. And that whole vanishing act, well, it really points to a pretty big flaw in a lot of the online tools we use now. They're largely what our sources are calling placeless.
Placeless, that's a good word for it.
Yeah, standard video conferencing apps, for all their convenience, they act more like these temporary throwaway meeting rooms. They just don't have the crucial context or that social fabric or even the cognitive anchors we actually need for learning to stick.
And that big, rapid shift we all made to remote work and remote learning really threw this into sharp relief, didn't it? The core issue is that these platforms are just ephemeral. They disappear when the session ends. And that creates this fragmented, sometimes pretty isolating experience.
So that's what we're diving into today. We're looking at some really fascinating insights, especially from Amy Oswalt. She's the founder of Conduit, and her paper, Digital Classrooms Need Persistent Walls.
Right. A very provocative title.
It is. And our mission, really, for this deep dive is to unpack why these persistent virtual spaces, digital environments that actually keep their state and let you engage continuously, even asynchronously, why they're so vital for really changing online learning.
We're going to explore the cognitive side, the social benefits, things these transient platforms just, well, they can't really replicate.
And to really get why persistence matters so much, we first need to get our heads around a really fundamental human concept, the huge difference between just space and what we feel is a place.
That's the perfect starting point. This distinction, explored brilliantly by the humanist geographer Yai-Fu Tuan, between space and place.
Okay, because honestly, we probably use those words almost interchangeably most of the time, but Tuan says, no, there's a massive difference. What is it?
Well, Tuan explains that space is fundamentally abstract. It's like potential, freedom of movement, a blank canvas, you could say.
Okay.
But place emerges when we give that space human meaning, when we infuse it with value through our experiences. It stops being just coordinates on a map.
Right.
It becomes what he calls a center of felt value or a concretion of value. It's something you get to know, you invest in emotionally, and it gathers meaning over time.
Okay, so like a random patch of grass is space, but the specific spot in the park where you always have picnics, or maybe something significant happened, that's become a place.
Exactly that. It's imbued with your experience.
Yeah.
And this transformation, this placemaking, it's a really core human thing. Environmental psychologists actually call the bond we form place attachment.
Place attachment.
Okay. And it's not just about, the physical look of the location. It's deeply tied into the social stuff, the relationships, the memories, personal experiences. Even our identity gets wrapped up in these places.
Like your old school classroom, maybe. It wasn't just four walls and desks.
Right. It became a place where you shared jokes, maybe had that aha moment, formed friendships. It gained layers of meaning beyond its physical structure.
That makes total sense for a physical place. But applying that to, say, a virtual world, that feels like maybe a bigger leap for some people. Can you really get attached to a digital place? What does the research say?
Well, this is where it gets really interesting. The research actually suggests, yes, absolutely. It's entirely possible to form these strong emotional attachments to virtual places, too. Yeah, the studies looking at virtual reality, for instance, they found that really immersive experiences can generate significant place attachment. It works because the key ingredients for making a place, having a consistent experience there, interacting socially, being able to shape the environment a bit, those can all exist in a well-designed virtual world. So when a virtual learning environment is persistent, it's always there. Maybe you can customize your little corner. It hold on to the things you did together, like project files or notes. It stops being just some abstract space on a server. It actually becomes a place.
A place where learning and community can, actually grow.
Precisely. Instead of just a transient meeting ID.
Wow, that's a really powerful shift. And thinking about a place like that must have huge implications for how we learn and especially how we remember things, right?
Absolutely. This connects directly to memory. Here's something that kind of flips the script on typical online learning. Our environment, the place itself, is a powerful memory tool. Well, think about that ancient technique, the method of loci, or the memory palace. Orders and scholars used it for centuries.
The memory palace, right, I've heard of that. It sounds kind of amazing. You visualize a familiar place, like your house, and you mentally put pieces of information in different rooms or spots.
Exactly. You walk through it in your mind to recall the information. And it works so well because it taps directly into our brain's really sophisticated visuospatial memory. We're naturally good at remembering where things are.
Okay.
This technique just cleverly hijacks that ability to remember abstract stuff like speech points or lists. Your brain uses locations like mental filing cabinets, much tidier than my actual desk usually.
Huh, I can relate. And this isn't just some, quirky old trick. It's based on real cognitive science, isn't it? Something about context.
Yes. Precisely. Context-dependent memory. There was that famous Godden and Badley study back in '75 with deep-sea divers.
No, yeah, tell me about that one.
They had divers learn lists of words, either underwater or on dry land. Then they tested their recall in both environments. The divers remembered the words much better when they were tested in the same environment where they learned them. So learn underwater, recall better underwater. Learn on land, recall better on land.
Oh.
It demonstrates the encoding specificity principle. Basically, memory works best when the cues available during learning are also there when you try to remember. The environment itself acts as a powerful retrieval cue.
Okay, so connecting that back. If our online classes are just these temporary video calls, they're essentially stripped of context, aren't they?
Exactly. They're context deprived. Every time you log in, it's like a blank slate. Any connection between the stuff you learned and the place you learned it is just severed.
It's like trying to build a memory palace that gets demolished and rebuilt differently every single day.
That's a great analogy. No wonder recall can feel so difficult.
Yeah.
And here's the exciting part. A persistent virtual space, the kind Amy Oswald talks about, can actually function like a collective memory palace for the whole class.
How would that work?
Well, imagine a math concept being discussed near a specific virtual whiteboard. Or maybe a history timeline is laid out visually in one corner of the virtual room.
Yeah.
Or a group project stays sitting on a virtual table.
Okay, I could picture that.
When students go back to that persistent place, that stable layout, the whiteboard, the timeline, the table acts as powerful retrieval cues. It helps reactivate the memories of the learning that happened right there.
So the space itself helps you remember.
Exactly. And studies using VR have actually shown better recall when learning happens in these kinds of immersive, stable environments.
That's really fascinating. The environment isn't just background, it's part of the learning process itself. Now, beyond memory, I'm guessing the other huge cost of this placelessness in online education is probably social, right?
Oh, definitely. You could argue that's the biggest hidden cost. Social isolation. The way many tools are set up now, they almost actively undermine the social connections that are so important for learning and just feeling like part of a group. There's an anthropologist, Tom Belstorff, who wrote a really influential book called Coming of Age in Second Life. He argues that virtual worlds aren't just networks. They are actual places.
Places where real culture and community can develop.
Yes. He found people formed incredibly deep friendships and strong communities in Second Life. And a key reason was that they shared a persistent, synchronous place where social life could just happen organically.
That sounds so different from the typical online class experience, which can feel really scheduled and, isolated.
Right. Think about physical schools or campuses. They build community partly because they're persistent places. Learning isn't just in the scheduled lectures.
So much happens in between, doesn't it? The quick chat in the hallway after class, gathering around a table at lunch, bumping into someone and starting an impromptu study session.
Exactly. Those interstitial moments, those unplanned encounters. That's where so much social capital and sense of belonging gets built. It combats isolation.
And the standard video meeting just wipes those opportunities out completely. Everything is structured, scheduled, log in, learn, log out, end of story.
There's no virtual water cooler effect, no bumping into people.
But in a persistent virtual world, you're saying those vital, informal interactions could actually happen again.
Potentially, yes. Imagine a student is like walking their avatar through a virtual campus common area and sees a classmate's avatar. They can just spontaneously start a conversation.
Or a teacher could leave their virtual office door open and students could just pop in for a quick, informal question, no appointment needed.
Exactly. It allows for that serendipity, those casual interactions that build real connection. Research backs this up. Virtual worlds can help combat learner isolation by providing this richer social context.
It makes the interactions feel more real.
Well, Bullstorff found that the friendships people made in Second Life felt just as real and meaningful as their actual world friendships. Why? Because the shared place allowed for that sustained, authentic connection over time.
Okay, so if we want to build these kinds of effective learning environments, moving away from the temporary rooms towards these persistent worlds, what are the key design elements? What makes it work?
The sources point to about 4 crucial design principles to really create digital places. First, and maybe most obviously, is persistence of state and objects,
Meaning?
meaning the virtual space has to actually exist continuously. It needs to remember its state from one session to the next. That virtual whiteboard doesn't get wiped clean automatically. Student projects stay where they were left.
So, no more starting over from zero every single time. That alone sounds huge.
It is. Second principle, embodied avatars. Students and teachers need consistent ways to represent themselves, usually through avatars they can customize.
Why is that so important?
Give you a sense of self, of being present in the space.
Mhm.
Plus, it allows for some nonverbal cues, seeing where someone is looking, maybe simple gestures, which are really important for smooth communication.
Right, like seeing someone turn towards you when you speak. Okay, what's third?
Third is spatialized interaction. The environment needs to respect space. This includes things like spatial audio.
So someone talking far away sounds quieter or sounds like they're coming from that direction.
Exactly. And also the ability to just move through the space to form smaller groups naturally, just like you would in a real room. Not everyone's stuck in the same big grid.
Okay, makes sense.
And the last one, finally, and this is really key for that feeling of place attachment, user agency and customization.
Meaning people can change things.
Yes, students and teachers should have some ability to shape or modify their environment, maybe pinning up resources, decorating a corner, arranging virtual furniture, similar to how you might put student work up on the walls in a physical classroom.
That gives you a sense of ownership, doesn't it? Makes it feel like your space or our space.
Precisely. It deepens that sense of place attachment, makes it feel less generic and more like a community home base.
So let's just quickly sum up the costs then of sticking with the status quo. With these transient, placeless platforms, we're basically shortchanging students, aren't we?
I think that's fair to say. We're creating learning experiences that are cognitively less efficient because we're hindering memory by removing that environmental context.
Right. The memory palace keeps getting knocked down.
We're also fostering social isolation by cutting off all those spontaneous, informal ways people connect and build community.
And the whole experience feels kind of disembodied, generic. It doesn't really allow for a shared culture to develop in the same way. It feels like a pretty significant downside.
It really is. And if you think bigger picture, the future of virtual education, well, it shouldn't just be about, better video quality or more features crammed in.
It should be about
It should be about building what Amy Oswalt calls digital places worthy of the name, persistent spatial social environments, designed around how humans actually think, how we remember, how we connect with each other.
So the goal isn't necessarily to just perfectly copy a physical classroom online.
No, not at all. It's about leveraging what digital technology can do uniquely well to create something potentially new and powerful.
Like a persistent virtual commons, you could say, where knowledge gets built together, where memories are tied to a shared context, and where a real community feeling can actually grow.
That's the vision, a much-needed evolution, I think, for where online learning needs to go.
It definitely feels like it. So we've really unpacked that key difference between space and place, how these virtual places can become essentially memory palaces, and how crucial they are for building genuine community online.
From abstract space to a center of felt value.
Which leaves us and you, our listener, with a final thought to maybe chew on. If we really commit to building and using digital places, not just transient digital spaces, what completely new kinds of learning, what new innovations, what truly human connections might actually start to emerge?